The Washington Monument stands today as one of the most iconic silhouettes in the American skyline. Rising 555 feet above the National Mall, it pierces the sky with a clean, unbroken line, an image so familiar that it's hard to imagine America without it. But the monument's story began not as a massive obelisk, but as a dream, one that would take over a century to come to fruition. Chapter 1. A monumental idea. The idea for a national tribute to George Washington was first proposed in 1783, while the man himself was still alive. The Revolutionary War had ended, and Congress was eager to honor the leader who had guided the colonies to victory. Suggestions flew: an equestrian statue, a grand rotunda, even a mausoleum. But political disagreements and a lack of funds left these ideas stranded in the realm of theory. When Washington died in 1799, calls for a monument grew louder. Still, nothing materialized. Chapter 2. Taking action. By 1833, patience had worn thin. A group of private citizens, frustrated by decades of inaction, formed the Washington National Monument Society. Their goal was ambitious: to raise funds privately and build the grandest tribute the young country had ever seen. The society held meetings, sold memberships, and courted wealthy donors. They eventually chose Robert Mills, one of America's first native-born architects, to design the monument. Mills envisioned a soaring 600-foot obelisk surrounded by a circular colonnade of 30 Greek-style pillars. Inside would be statues of Revolutionary War heroes, relics, and symbolic art celebrating liberty and the nation's ideals. The design was breathtaking, but also expensive and controversial. Critics argued the colonnade was unnecessary, while others worried the whole thing was simply too grand for a country still solidifying its identity. Still, by 1848, the society had raised enough to break ground. On July 4th of that year, in a grand ceremony attended by President James K. Polk and a young Abraham Lincoln, the cornerstone was laid. Cannons thundered across the mall, bands filled the summer air with music, and speakers took the stage to praise Washington's unwavering leadership and character, stirring the crowd with words that echoed the pride of a young nation. Chapter 3. A Broken Promise. Construction progressed slowly. Each massive marble block had to be hauled, shaped, and set by hand. By 1854, the monument stood 152 feet high. But then, disaster struck, not from nature, but from politics. Political infighting within the society escalated. A nativist political group known as the Know-Nothings took over, alienating donors and drying up funding. Then came the gathering storm of the Civil War. Tensions between North and South were reaching a breaking point, and the nation's focus shifted almost entirely to the conflict on the horizon. Resources, manpower, and political will were all pulled toward preparing for war, leaving no room for a monumental building project, no matter how symbolic or inspiring it might have been. Construction stopped. The half-built obelisk stood awkwardly in the middle of the mall, surrounded by weeds and derision. Locals called it the stump. Foreign visitors mocked it as a symbol of American dysfunction. For nearly 25 years, the Washington Monument stood as a broken promise. Chapter 4. Resurrection. In the 1870s, as the country began to heal after the Civil War, momentum returned. In 1876, America's centennial, Congress appropriated funds to complete the monument. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, led by Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Lincoln Casey, took charge. Casey scrapped Mills' elaborate colonnade to focus on the obelisk alone. This decision not only saved money, but also simplified construction. By 1884, the final capstone, a 9-inch aluminum pyramid, rare and expensive at the time, was set in place. The monument now stood as the tallest man-made structure in the world. Chapter 5. Fun Facts and Lasting Legacy. let's pause for a moment and explore some of the most intriguing, lesser-known details about the Washington Monument. Little stories and quirks that might just make you see this iconic obelisk in a whole new way. First up, did you know it's still the tallest stone structure in the entire world? That's a title it's held for well over a century. No other building made entirely of stone, not even with a little hidden steel, has managed to beat it. Standing at more than 555 feet, it actually edges out the Great Pyramid of Giza by about 30 feet. And here's the kicker. It was all done in the 19th century, without modern cranes, without power tools, and without computer-assisted engineering. Second, the color change about a third of the way up is not a flaw. It's like a timestamp carved in stone. When work halted in the 1850s, the original marble quarry shut down for good. Decades later, when construction crews returned, they had to turn to a different quarry miles away. The new marble had a slightly darker, more porous quality, and when it was stacked atop the original stone, the contrast was impossible to hide. Today, that gentle shift in shade tells its own chapter of the monument's story. You can stand on the mall, look up, and literally see the moment history hit pause and then start it again. Third, the capstone is made of aluminum. Today, it's one of the most common metals in the world, but in the 1880s, aluminum was so rare it was displayed alongside crown jewels at world fairs. Its placement on the monument was a bold statement about innovation. Fourth, the monument sways, on purpose, and that's not a design flaw. In fact, it's one of the reasons the structure has stood the test of time. On especially windy days, engineers have measured the tip moving ever so slightly, just a few inches. But that gentle give is exactly what keeps it from cracking under pressure. Picture it like a giant, graceful tree bending in a storm. The ability to flex allows it to survive. Also, this monument is a lightning magnet. On average, the Washington Monument is struck by lightning between 2 and 4 times a year, a natural hazard for a 555-foot-tall stone needle pointing into the sky. In fact, its lightning protection system has been updated over the years to keep both the structure and visitors safe. And finally, hidden within its marble walls are 193 commemorative stones, gifted by states, cities, organizations, and even foreign countries. These stones aren't just decorative. They carry inscriptions in multiple languages, from Latin to Japanese, and they stand as a tangible reminder of the monument's wide-reaching significance. Each one is like a handshake from another place in the world, a testament that Washington's legacy is recognized far beyond America's borders. Chapter 6. The Monument Today. Today, the Washington Monument welcomes more than 800,000 visitors every year. The trip to the top now takes just seconds in a smooth, modern elevator, a far cry from the slow, clanking steam-powered lifts of the 19th century, where guests might have spent minutes creaking their way skyward. Over its lifetime, the monument has endured earthquakes that rattled its stones, fierce storms that battered its surface, and the relentless wear of time. Each challenge has been met with careful restorations and the work of dedicated crews, keeping it standing proud against the DC skyline. But the Washington Monument is far more than a tourist stop. It's a living reminder that even the most ambitious national projects can face decades of uncertainty, weather periods of abandonment, and still rise again to inspire future generations. A silent witness to the nation's ability to rebuild, adapt, and endure. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the history of the Washington Monument, a structure built twice, abandoned once, and still standing as the tallest stone structure in the world. If you enjoyed learning the hidden stories carved into its stones, hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And I'd love to hear from you. If you could add one more commemorative stone inside the monument, what would it say? Leave your answer in the comments below, or let me know what's one historical site or structure you think deserves its own deep dive. Drop your suggestions in the comments. I might just cover your idea in a future episode. And of course, if you want more stories about the built world around us, Subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next chapter in the making of history.